Okay, let's unpack this. We throw around the word king in music all the time, right?
Oh, constantly.
Yeah, you've got the king of pop, the king of rock and roll, king of country, but usually, I mean, that's just a marketing term.
Right, a nickname from a fan club or a really clever PR agent.
Exactly. But today, for this deep dive, we are looking at someone who literally holds the title, like officiated, stamped, and certified of King of Kings.
It sounds like hyperbole, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But in this specific corner of the music world, it is a literal, almost military rank. We're talking about the high-stakes world of Vallenato music.
Yeah.
And the man sitting on that throne is Gonzalo Arturo Molina Mejia.
Better known to the world and honestly to anyone who has ever hummed a Colombian folk song as El Cocha Molina.
Exactly. And to really understand El Cocha, you have to understand that he didn't just sell records or, get a lot of streams. He conquered a very specific, very brutal competitive circuit to earn that title.
It's a distinction held by very, very few people in history. And I want to get into that competition because looking at the research for this deep dive, it looks more like a gladiator match than a battle of the bands.
It really does.
But before we get to the arena, let's set the stage for everyone listening. We're pulling from festival archives, biographical records from the Department of Caesar in Colombia, and a discography that basically reads like a phone book of Latin music legends.
It's a massive catalog, and our mission today is really to connect two very different worlds. On one side, you have the hyper-traditional folklore of rural Colombia.
Very strict.
Very purist, like where you lose points if you play a single note wrong. And then on the other side, you have international pop stardom, Grammy Awards, and, well, Gloria Estefan.
Which is just a wild combination.
It is. And El Cocha Molina is the bridge between those two universes. He's the guy who can please the grumpy judge at the folklore festival and the dancing crowd in Miami at the exact same time.
So let's start at the beginning. We are in Patillal, Colombia. It's June 1965.
Right. A small town in the Department of Caesar. This is the absolute heartland of Vallenato. If you throw a stone in Patillal, you're probably going to hit a composer or an accordion player.
Right.
And for Gonzalo, or El Cocha, the nickname actually comes first. It wasn't some stage name he invented later to sound tough.
I was going to ask about that. El Cocha sounds a bit mysterious. Is it slang or something?
No, it's actually just a pet name from his mother, Estela Mejia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's one of those childhood things, kind of like being called Junior or Bubba, that just stuck. But, while the name was soft, the environment he was born into was incredibly intense. His father, Arturo Molina, was a professional musician.
A guitarist, right?
Yes, and not just a strummer in the background. He was the guitarist for Jorge Oñate's group.
Wow.
For context for our listeners, Jorge Oñate is one of the absolute pillars of the genre. He's often called El Higuero de America. So Cocha grows up watching his dad play guitar for a living legend.
Naturally, you'd expect the kid to pick up a guitar. Like father, like son.
You would think. But at age 6, the trajectory changes completely. His uncle, Evaristo Gutierrez, hands him an accordion.
The classic cool uncle intervention.
Changed everything. And we should note, this uncle, Evaristo, wasn't just some random relative. He was the father of Gustavo Gutierrez Cabello, a famous songwriter known as the Poet of Vallenato.
Okay, so no matter where this kid turned, he was bumping into a musical prodigy.
Exactly. It was just in the DNA.
I think it's important to clarify for you listening right now, when we say accordion here, we aren't talking about polka. We aren't talking about, like, a guy in lederhosen or a French cafe atmosphere.
Crucial distinction. In Vallenato, the accordion is the lead guitar, the synthesizer, and the vocalist all wrapped into one.
Yeah.
Is the aggressive driving force of the band. It's a loud, demanding instrument that requires incredible physical stamina.
So he gets this demanding instrument at 6. Does he immediately drop out of society to become a hermit monk of the accordion?
Surprisingly, no. And this is where the story almost went in a completely different direction. He followed a very traditional educational path at first.
Okay.
He went to primary school at Colegio Paroquial in Valledupar, then secondary school at Colegio Nacional La Perena, and finished up his high school years in Bogotá at Colegio Chiquinquirá.
So he's a good student. He's educated.
He was. In fact, he actually enrolled in university. He studied business administration for 3 semesters.
Business administration, that is the ultimate plan B. We almost had Gonzalo Molina, the mid-level manager.
Or an accountant, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine him sitting in a macroeconomics class trying to focus on supply and demand graphs. But in his head, he's hearing the clave rhythm.
Right.
He's just thinking about the festival in Valledupar.
Yeah.
And eventually the pull was just too strong. He dropped out to play full time.
It's that classic crossroads moment, the safe path versus the dream.
And in his case, the dream wasn't just, I want to be famous. It was, I want to compete. And that brings us to the Vallenato Legend Festival.
Help us understand the stakes here, because I hear the word festival, and I think of Coachella people wearing wristbands, walking in mud, listening to bands in a field.
No, this is much closer to the Olympics,
Yeah.
or maybe a very intense chess tournament with loud music.
Okay.
The Vallenato Legend Festival began in the late 60s specifically to preserve the traditions. They have categories: child, amateur, and professional. You go up on stage, and you are judged by a panel of absolute experts on your technique, your timing, and your adherence to the roots.
So if you mess up, you don't just have a bad gig, you actually lose your ranking.
Exactly. And Cocha entered the fray early. In 1978, he competed in the child accordionist category. He had his little band, Ovani Gomez on vocals, and Wilder Gomez on the Cocha, which is that traditional hand drum.
Did he win?
He came in second.
Oof. Who beat him?
His own cousin.
No.
Yes. Chiche Meister.
That is rough. I mean, losing is one thing, but losing to your cousin at the family reunion is another level of awkwardness. Like, pass the potatoes, Mr. Second Place.
It probably fueled the fire, honestly, because he didn't give up. He came back in 1982, now a bit older, and entered the amateur category. And this time, he won.
Okay, so he's climbing the ladder, child prodigy, then amateur champion. Next step is the big leagues, the professional category.
Exactly. And this is where he hits another major speed bump. He enters the professional competition in 1989, and he comes in second again.
The always the bridesmaid vibe is starting to set in. Who beat him this time?
Omar Gelis.
Omar Gelis. That's a name that looms pretty large in this genre, right?
Huge. Omar Gelis is a titan of Vallenato. He's a singer, songwriter, and accordionist. So losing to him is no shame, but for someone as competitive as Molina, it had to sting. It really set up a rivalry.
So what does he do? Does he retreat?
No, he doubles down. He comes back the very next year, 1990, and he brings a powerhouse team with him. He's got Iván Villazón on vocals and the guacharaca.
Let's explain the guacharaca for a second, just so everyone listening can visualize it.
It's a percussion instrument, essentially a wooden scraper, often made from a cane-like plant. It provides that driving, scratching rhythm, chuka-chuka-chuka, that cuts through all the noise.
Got it.
So he has Villazón on the scraper and vocals, and Augusto Guerra on the caja drum.
He wasn't messing around this time.
Not at all. And to win, you can't just play one good song. You have to demonstrate absolute mastery of 4 specific rhythms:
Which are?
paseo, merengue, son, and puya.
It's like a triathlon. You have to be good at swimming, biking, and running. You can't just be a good runner.
Precisely. And looking at the archives, his set list for that 1990 victory was impeccable. For the paseo, which is a narrative mid-tempo style used for storytelling, he played El Palo Vallenato by Luis C. Martinez.
Okay.
For the merengue, which is faster and has a distinct 6/8 feel, he played Rosita, also by Martinez.
Keeping it in the same wheelhouse, yeah.
Then for the son, he went with a classic. The son is slow, mournful, almost bluesy. It requires real soul. He played Penny Dolor, which means pain and sorrow, by the legendary Alejo Duran.
Oh.
And finally, for the puya, which is the fastest, most technically demanding rhythm, he played Déjala Venir by Nefer Duran.
Just listing those names, Alejo Duran, Nefer Duran, those are heavy hitters. He was clearly channeling the deep history of the genre.
And it worked. In 1990, El Cocha Molina was crowned the Vallenato King.
So he did it. He reached the top of the mountain.
He did. But in the world of Vallenato, there's a peak higher than the mountain.
The King of Kings.
The Rey de Reyes. This isn't an annual event. It's a special competition held only periodically, often every 10 years, or for special anniversaries. And it is open only to past winners of the professional category.
So it's the Champions League. You can't just walk in off the street.
It is the ultimate test. In 1997, the festival held a King of Kings competition. Molina threw his hat in the ring.
Who was he up against?
The best of the best. Chiche Martinez, Juan David Herrera, Freddie Sierra, and Omar Gelis.
The guy who beat him in '89? The nemesis?
The narrative arc is perfect. It was a rematch. And this time in 1997, on the biggest stage possible, El Cocha Molina took the crown. He defeated Omar Gelis, who came in second.
Sweet, sweet victory. That has to feel good.
It cemented his legacy. He's often referred to as the second King of Kings in the history of the festival, marking a major milestone. He proved that 1990 wasn't a fluke.
So by 1997, he has proven he is technically the best accordion player in the land. But we also know that technical skill doesn't always translate to selling records. You can be a festival darling and nobody buys your albums because you're too, I don't know, academic.
That is the other side of the coin, for sure. But Molina had that covered too. While he was battling it out in the festivals, he was simultaneously building a massive recording career.
And he wasn't recording with just anybody.
No. In the 1980s, before he even won the King title, he had a hugely successful run with Diomedes Díaz.
Diomedes is arguably the biggest Vallenato singer of all time, right? The cacique of La Junta.
Without a doubt. They released a string of albums: El Mundo in 1984, Vallenato in 1985, Brindo Con el Alma in 1986, and Incontentables in 1987.
That's a lot of music.
That four-year run basically defined the sound of the mid-'80s. If you go to a party in Colombia today, you will still hear those songs.
That is incredible output. So he's touring with the biggest rock star in the country and then going home to practice his scales for the competition.
Exactly. And they even reunited later in 2002 for the album Gracias a Dios. But he also had that key partnership with Iván Villazón, the guy who was in his band for the 1990 win.
Right, I saw that in the notes.
Starting in 1988, they put out albums like Por ti Valledupar and Enamorado de Ella. This period really established Molina as a hit maker, not just a competition player.
Okay, so he's dominating the local scene. He's the king. He's selling records with Diomedes and Villazón. But here is the curveball that I found in the research that genuinely surprised me. Gloria Estefan.
This is where it gets fascinating.
I mean, Gloria Estefan is global pop royalty. Conga rhythm is going to get you. Miami Sound Machine. How does a Vallenato accordionist from Patillal fit into that world?
Well, in 1995, Gloria Estefan released an album called Abriendo Puertas, which means opening doors. It was a departure for her. It was very focused on traditional Colombian and Latin American rhythms. She wanted to move away from the synthesizer-heavy pop and do something truly organic.
But surely she could have just hired a studio musician in Miami to imitate the sound.
She could have, but she didn't want an imitation. She wanted the authentic grit. She wanted the real deal. So she called El Cocha.
So she calls the king.
She gets El Cocha. He played on the album. And here is the kicker. That album didn't just do well, it won a Grammy Award. And not a Latin Grammy, a U.S. Grammy.
So we have a guy who started out losing to his cousin in a child competition in Valledupar, now contributing to a Grammy-winning album with a global superstar.
It shows the universality of his playing. He could play Pene Dolor for the purists at the festival, adhering to rules written decades ago, and then turn around and lay down tracks that would be heard in Miami, New York, and Madrid.
It really bridges that gap. And I noticed he also ended up playing with his dad's old boss.
Yes, the full circle moment. In 1997, the exact same year he became King of Kings, he started collaborating with Jorge Oñate.
His dad must have been incredibly proud, taking the seat his father watched from the sidelines.
I imagine so. They released several albums together, like El de Todos los Tiempos and Sun Universal. And even into the 2000s and 2010s, Molina just kept evolving. He teamed up with Poncho Zuleta for albums like Colombia Canavanato and Parao en la Raya.
He just never stopped working with the top-tier talent.
Never. He's been relevant for over 4 decades. Most artists are lucky to have one good decade. Cocha has spanned generations.
So when we look at this trajectory, born in Patillal, drops out of business school, wins the amateur title, loses the pro title, comes back and wins it, wins King of Kings, records with Diomedes, records with Gloria Estefan. What is the big takeaway here for us?
I think the takeaway is about the balance between discipline and adaptability. To win the King of Kings, you have to be a purist. You have to respect the rules, the history, the specific rhythms like the sun and the puya. You simply cannot fake that.
Right. If you try to improvise too much, the judges will just ring the bell on you.
Exactly. But to have the career he's had, you also have to be open. You have to be willing to collaborate, to try new things, to step onto a stage with a pop star. El Cocha Molina proves you can be the guardian of tradition and a global ambassador at the exact same time.
It's not an either-or situation. You don't have to choose between being respected and being popular.
Exactly.
You know, it raises an interesting question for you listening to Chew On. We often talk about saving folklore or traditional music, and usually people think that means keeping it in a glass case, never changing a single note.
Right, preserving it in amber. That museum approach.
But Molina took those traditional sounds and put them on a record that won a U.S. Grammy. So does true preservation actually require evolution? Do you have to be willing to share your pena y dolor with the world to keep it alive? Or does the King of Kings title prove that the pure, untouched tradition is still the ultimate standard?
That is a great question to leave on.
Maybe the answer is in the accordion itself. If you want to hear it for yourself, I'd suggest a little listening experiment. Go find a recording of his 1990 festival performance, listen to the raw speed of that puya, and then go put on Abriendo Puertas by Gloria, Estefan. Try to hear the thread that connects them.
It's the same soul, just a different stage.
That's it for this deep dive on the accordion royalty, El Cocha Molina. Thanks for listening.
Until next time.